Hey everybody, JC here with another TNI toy review. And for today's review, I'm going to be taking a look at two of the new ThunderCats Classics figures from Mattel with the Mumm-Ra and Pumyra figures. Now, Mumm-Ra is the club exclusive, which means you had to be a subscriber in order to get this figure. You couldn't just buy it day on Mattel Collector. And then the Pumyra figure is the third figure, regular figure, to be released in this line. And both of these come in the standard mailer boxes that we've been seeing with the ThunderCats Classic figures. For Pumyra, we've got the ThunderCats symbol on the front, and then with Mumm-Ra, we've got his symbol on the front. And then down below, you've just got the ThunderCats logo, and it says for adult collectors. On the sides of these mailer boxes, you have some artwork, and then on the back, it's just blank. And once you open up the mailer boxes, then you just have the standardized packaging we've been seeing with this line. You've got the blister packaging. The figures are clearly displayed. You've got that kind of molded sort of ThunderCats on the blister here, and then down below you have some artwork for Lion-O holding the Sword of Omens. On the sides, we again just have artwork. On the other side is just the logo. And then on the back of the packaging, we have more artwork for the characters and brief bios. All right, let's get these open and take a look at what's inside. Okay, so here's a look at the figures outside the packaging along with their other content. So each figure comes with a number of different accessories. Starting with Pumyra, she comes with this Totem of Dera, I believe is how it's pronounced. And this is actually seems to be kind of a random accessory for her. I don't believe she used this in the cartoon, the episode that this thing appeared in. I don't recall her being in. Now this totem, basically it has this power of healing, and she is a healer, so that might be why they included it. But again, and I won't swear to it, but I don't think that she was in the episode that this appeared in. I remember Snarf using it to heal Lion-O, I think, in the episode. But it's got gold metallic paint on the handle, and the sculpting detail on it's pretty good, and then the gem on the top is done with just a blue plastic, and it's a pretty solid plastic. It's not too bendable. The handle is a little more softer. It's got some bendability, but the gem itself is pretty hard and looks pretty true to what we see in the cartoon. She comes with this Boomerang Weapon, and this is done with just a gray plastic for the blades, and then you've got the red circle in the middle. And again, this isn't really something I recall her using, but it's possible she used it in one of the episodes. It's definitely not her main signature weapon, which is the whip tail, cat tail whip that she has. Which brings us to our next accessory, her whip tail. And this is a whip that's made to look like a cat's tail, and this is her signature weapon. And you've got the lighter colored fur at the end, and then you've got the little pellets that she throws with the whip, and these are multicolor, yellow, blue, and red, and these are just sculpted up here at the top. And then the strap, which is brown, is kind of a flexible plastic, so you can just put it in her hand and have her, like, you know, pose it like she's getting ready to throw those little pellets, which is basically what she would do, is kind of throw it like a sling. And then you'll notice that there's a second version of the whip that is around her waist, so this kind of acts as a belt as well. She would, when she's not using it, she wears it around her waist like this. So they've given you the second version, and this one is removable. It just plugs. There's a little peg here. You just unplug it here, and then you can remove it from the figure. And so it's basically the same thing, it just doesn't have the little pellets sculpted into it, but it's cool that they gave you a second version that she can wear on her waist. And then finally, we get two different pairs of hands with this figure. We get a pair that has a grip hand for the right hand, and then just kind of an open hand, and then a second pair that has a grip hand for the left hand and a closed fist for the right hand. And switching out the hands is pretty easy. You just want to pull off the hand you want to replace, and then you just pop in the hand that you want to replace it with, and it should pop in there nice and tight. For Mumm-Ra, we get the staff that you see him use oftentimes when he's in his mummy form, and you've got the head on the top here with the red horns and the red eyes and teeth, and I like the sculpting detail on it. I think it looks good. And the rest of the staff and the head itself are all done in black plastic, and then the staff itself looks like a gnarled up piece of bone or something. So again, I like the sculpting detail on it, and looks pretty true to what we saw in the cartoon. MummRa also comes with the handle for the sword of Plun-Darr, and again, this looks pretty cartoon accurate. You've got the 4 snake heads on each end, and then the snakes are interwoven here in the middle, and again, it looks pretty accurate to what we see. Now, I suppose we were probably going to get a regular sword with the blades with the regular MummRa figure if that ever got released, but as it is, as you know, this line is technically on hold after we get through this first wave of stuff from Mattel, so it's still unclear if Super 7 will pick up the line or not. Hopefully they will, and we'll continue to see figures. MummRa comes with 2 different pairs of hands, so you get one set that has a right hand that's kind of, they're both sets are open hands, but with this one the right hand is more closed, so it's got a better grip, and the hands are, or the fingers are more open on the left hand, and then vice versa, where you've got the right hand that's more open and the left hand that's more of a grip hand. And once again, switching out the hands, what you want to do is just pull out the hand you want to replace and then plug in the hand that you want to replace it with. Now, with the MummRa figure, I've had a little more difficulty, especially with the left hand. You might need to take a blow dryer to it if you have a hard time getting the hands to click in, but once you do, they fit in nice and tight. And then finally, with MummRa, you get 2 different capes. So this version of MummRa obviously is in his mummy form, and sometimes in the cartoon, he would be, you know, walking around and have the cape more open, and then sometimes the cape would be more closed and kind of cover up his entire body. So they've given you 2 different capes to kind of mimic that, and the ones that is on the figure when you first take it out of the packaging is the open cape, and both capes are done with just kind of that vinyl rubber material, so they have flexibility, and you've got, it's just done with red, and you've got some darker wash effect in the capes. So I think the capes look pretty good. Now this open cape is easy. You can just lift it up over his head and it slides off. However, this closed cape, the opening in the cape is much smaller, so I've not been able to get the head to push through on this one. So the only way I've been able to get this one on is you've got to actually pop the head off and then slide it over the body of the figure. And then you want to kind of, before you slide it all the way up there, you actually want to kind of stick the head in there and then slide it up and get the ball joint there to pop into place. So that one is, this closed cape is a little harder to get onto the figure. And again, this closed cape is done with a vinyl material, and you've got some darker wash on the back of it to give it that kind of worn look. So I do like it, and I actually think this one looks a little bit better on the figure than the open cape. So looking at the figures themselves, starting with Pumyra, I think they've done a good job with this one. I like the head sculpt. I think it looks pretty true to what we saw in the cartoon. She's got the pointy ears, and I like how the hair is sculpted. You've got some lighter and darker brown colors, and then she's got the white striping. I do have a little bit of scratch on the white here at the end, but not a major deal. And then she's got the little ponytails that come down around her face. And again, you got the little white at the end. She's got the round pupils. And you've got some darker color here on her face. So again, I like the sculpting, and paint applications are pretty solid with this one. And then she's got the ThunderCats symbol on her chest. And she's got this little red thing that comes over her shoulder. Again, pretty cartoon accurate. And she's got this thing around her bicep, which is done with metallic gold. And then she's got the lighter color down here on her hands and lower part of her arm, which again is pretty cartoon accurate. And she's wearing this little skirt piece, and this is done with a vinyl type material. She's got her belt that I told you about before, and she's got this pouch sculpted on the side here. And then good skin tone, and then she's got the red boots. So again, pretty cartoon accurate as far as the overall look of the figure. So MummRa, again, I think they've done a good job with the sculpting. I like the head sculpt. I like the paint applications with the blue skin and the red eyes, and you got the black around the eyes. You can see his teeth. So again, this seems to be very cartoon accurate. And I like the bandages, and the bandages have some wash effect in it to give it that kind of worn look to it. So I like that. So again, nice sculpting detail. I like how the bandages kind of hang down off his face. And then again, off his arms and everything. And these hanging bandages are done with just that kind of vinyl material. Again, you have some hanging bandages here in his midsection, and some here on his waist. So I like that. And then like bandages come down his leg. So I like how they mix the difference between the actual sculpted bandages and then these hanging bandages. I think that looks good. And he's got those MummRa toes. Pumyra stands about 7.5 inches tall. And here's a comparison with the classics ThunderCats Lion-O and the Thunder Kittens from Mattel. And my one complaint with this figure is I feel it's way too tall. She's actually taller than Lion-O, and in the cartoon I don't believe she was anywhere near that tall. It's almost like this was the mold meant for Jitara, and they decided just to use it also for her as well. But definitely I think it's way too tall for this character. And MummRa stands just a little bit over 6 inches tall. And here's a comparison with MummRa and the classic Lion-O figure, and I think the scale between these two is pretty good. I know that MummRa in his mummy form is kind of more frail and shorter. I don't really recall seeing Lion-O with MummRa in this form. He's usually in his normal form, which is much bigger, so it's hard to say for sure. Here's a comparison with the Jackalman figure. Here's a comparison with the Bandai MummRa figure. And the scale between these is decent enough that you could make them work. And then finally, just for fun, here's a comparison with Mattel's Masters of the Universe Classic Skeletor figure. For articulation, starting with Pumyra, you can turn her head to the left and to the right. The hair limits a little bit, but not too much. You can also do the head forward a little bit and back a little bit, but not too much, again limited by the hair. And you can also pivot the head to the left and to the right. Arms attached with your standard ball hinge joint at the shoulder so she can get her arm out good. She's got good rotation. She's got a bicep swivel, single hinged elbow so she can bend her elbow about that much. She's got rotation at the wrist and hinges on the hand, so good up and down movement there. She has no midsection articulation. She does have a waist swivel, and then legs are attached with a hinge type joint, so she can do the splits about that much, and then she can get her leg forward about that much. The skirt piece limits some of the leg movement, and back about that much. And then she's got a thigh swivel up high there. Single hinged knee, so she can bend her knee about that much, and then she's got hinges on the feet, so up and down movement, and she does have some ankle pivot, and 2 peg holes on the bottom of her feet. So for articulation on MummRa, you can turn the head to the left and to the right. He doesn't have a whole lot of back and forth movement, a little bit, and you can pivot the head a little bit to the left and right as well. Arms are attached with your standard ball hinge joint so he can get his arm out good. Now the thing to note about his arms is one of these wrappings is actually attached to both of the arms, so you can't really do the arm, you can't rotate the arms all the way around, because or if you do, you got to do both arms at the same time, so just be wary of that. He does not have a bicep swivel, single hinged elbow so he can bend his elbow about that much. He's got rotation at the elbow. Now the hands, you've got rotation with the hands, and the hinges are actually on the top and bottom, so it's more of an up and down movement than a forward and back. And it's actually just with the grip hands. The more open hands are your regular hinges, so with the open hands you've got the up and down movement. Then you've got midsection rotation there, no ab crunch or anything. He can do the splits about that much, and he can get his leg forward about that much, and he can do his leg back about that much. He does not have a thigh swivel, single hinged knee. You can rotate at the knee, and then hinges on the feet, up and down movement, and he does have ankle pivot and 2 peg holes on the bottom of the feet. And of course, when you have the capes on, that limits some of the movement of the figure, especially the closed cape. Now, this version of MummRa in his mummy form isn't really known for moving around a lot, so it's not a big deal. Okay, so that's my review. So overall, I like both of these figures. I like the sculpting detail on them. The paint applications are decent, and I like the accessories, and both seem to be pretty accurate to how they appeared in the cartoon. My only complaint comes with the Pumyra figure and the fact that I just think she's too tall for the character. Now, Pumyra is currently still available on MattyCollector.com. The MummRa figures I mentioned before, you had to be a subscriber to get all the figures if you wanted to pick that one up. If you didn't do that, at this point, you'll have to resort to the secondary market. We'll have a full image gallery up at ToyNewsEye.com. There'll be a link in the video description below. As always, leave a comment, let us know what you think. If you're so inclined, please like the video. Also, if you haven't already, please follow me on my Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram accounts. I'll have links to those in the video description as well. And until next time, I'll catch you later.